Imagine floating in the silent abyss of space, hundreds of kilometers above the Earth. You're completely alone, cocooned in a metal shell, the only human for thousands of miles. The silence is profound, absolute. Then, you hear it, a knock. Not from inside the spacecraft, but from outside. This isn't science fiction. It's the chilling experience of China's first astronaut, Yang Liwei, on his historic mission aboard Shenzhou 5, not Shenzhou 6, as some accounts mistakenly report. Yang Liwei encountered something that defies easy explanation. He was floating in the quiet solitude of his capsule when he heard a sound he described as someone knocking the body of the spaceship, just like knocking an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. It wasn't a random ping or a mechanical groan. It was a rhythmic, deliberate sound. Confused and more than a little unsettled, he moved closer to the porthole, trying to pinpoint the source. He peered out into the black void, searching for any sign of debris or a micrometeorite that might have struck the hull. But there was nothing. Just the silent, stardusted emptiness of space. The knocking sound, however, continued intermittently throughout his mission. It was a persistent, phantom presence in a place where sound shouldn't even exist. Now, let's get one thing straight. Sound, as we know it, can't travel through a vacuum. It needs a medium, like air or water, to propagate. So, how could Yang Liwei hear a knock from outside his spacecraft? This is where the mystery deepens. When he reported the strange noise to ground control, the engineers were baffled. They checked all the telemetry, ran diagnostics on every system, and found nothing. No malfunctions, no temperature fluctuations, no structural stress that could account for it. The spacecraft was performing perfectly. After a safe return to Earth, Yang Liwei shared his experience with the engineers and technicians who built Shenzhou 5. They were just as puzzled as he was. They tried to replicate the sound in simulations, testing every possible scenario. Could it have been the spacecraft's structure expanding or contracting as it passed in and out of the sun's warmth? This is a common phenomenon known as thermal stress. But Yang Liwei was firm. The sound he heard wasn't the typical creak or groan of metal under stress. He described it as a specific cadence, a deliberate pattern. It wasn't random. It felt intentional. The mystery didn't stop with Shenzhou 5. Incredibly, subsequent astronauts on the Shenzhou 6 and Shenzhou 7 missions also reported hearing the same mysterious knocking sound. This ruled out the possibility that it was just a one-time anomaly or a trick of Yang Liwei's perception. Whatever was causing the sound was a recurring phenomenon linked to the spacecraft itself or the environment it was traveling through. This is where the theories really start to get interesting. The most widely accepted scientific explanation points to the internal mechanics of the spacecraft. One leading theory suggests that the sound was caused by tiny changes in pressure within the capsule. As the internal atmosphere settled or as materials on the inner wall of the spacecraft contracted, it could have produced a popping or knocking sound that reverberated through the structure. Think of how an old house creaks and groans at night. The sound isn't coming from outside. It's the house itself settling. In the ultra-sensitive environment of a space capsule, even the slightest internal shift could sound like an external knock. Another plausible explanation is related to the liner of the spacecraft. The interior of the capsule has multiple layers of materials for insulation and protection. As the temperature and pressure changed, these layers could have expanded or contracted at different rates, causing them to rub or buckle against each other. This friction could create a distinct knocking noise that would seem to come from the hull itself. To the astronaut inside, it would be impossible to tell that the source was actually just a few centimeters away, within the walls of their own ship. But what if the explanation is something more unconventional? The human mind is a powerful thing, especially under the extreme stress and isolation of spaceflight. Is it possible the sound was an auditory hallucination? It's a valid question. The environment of space is completely alien to our biology. The combination of weightlessness, altered sensory input, and psychological pressure can have strange effects. However, the fact that multiple astronauts on different missions reported the same specific sound makes a purely psychological explanation much less likely. It suggests a real, physical source, and that brings us to the more speculative, and frankly, more thrilling possibilities. Yang Liwei himself has said, in a somewhat playful but intriguing manner, that the sound was as if someone were knocking outside. He even tried to mimic it for interviewers. That image of something unknown tapping on the door in the middle of the cosmic ocean is what captures our imagination. Could it have been something we don't yet understand about the physics of space? Perhaps some unknown particle interaction or energy field that interacts with the spacecraft's hull in a way that produces sound waves within the metal itself. While sound can't travel through a vacuum, vibrations certainly can. If an external force caused the hull to vibrate, those vibrations would travel through the metal and into the air inside the capsule, where they would be heard as sound. The question is, what force could do that without leaving a trace? This is where the story enters the realm of campfire tales for the space age. The idea that something was out there is almost irresistible. It taps into our deepest fears and wonders about the universe. Are we truly alone? Or is there something else? Something just beyond our perception that occasionally makes its presence known with a simple, chilling knock. The engineers, for their part, believe they have solved the mystery. After extensive analysis, the most likely culprit was identified as pressure changes acting on the spacecraft's inner materials. It's a mundane explanation for a truly extraordinary experience. But does it fully capture what those astronauts felt? Floating in the void, hearing that impossible rhythm, wondering what was on the other side of that thin metal wall. The story of the space knock is a perfect example of how the universe can still surprise us. It's a reminder that even in our most technologically advanced endeavors, there are still phenomena that puzzle and intrigue us. It's a ghost story, set in the final frontier. Whether it was the simple mechanics of a contracting liner or something far more mysterious, it gave these astronauts a story that will be told for generations. A story of a strange, inexplicable knock on the door, far, far from home. What do you think? Was it just the ship's materials settling, or do you believe it could have been something else? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into one of spaceflight's greatest mysteries, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the great unknown. Thanks for watching. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of profound loneliness? The sheer scale of the cosmos, the trillions of stars, and the deafening silence. It makes you wonder, are we truly alone? For one brief, electrifying moment in 1977, humanity thought it had an answer. A whisper from the void that was so shocking, so utterly unexpected, that the man who found it could only write one word. Wow. This is the story of the WOW signal, one of the most compelling and frustrating mysteries in the history of science. It's a tale of a giant radio telescope, a dedicated astronomer, and a signal from deep space that has defied explanation for nearly half a century. Let's travel back to August 15th, 1977. At Ohio Wesleyan University's Perkins Observatory, a massive radio telescope known as the Big Ear was on a mission. Its job was to patiently listen to the universe, scanning the skies for any faint whispers that might suggest we're not the only ones out here. This was part of the SETI project, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For years, the Big Ear had been recording the endless static of the cosmos, the background noise of stars being born and dying, of distant galaxies humming with energy. It was a cosmic symphony of chaos. On that particular night, an astronomer named Jerry Emmon was not at the telescope. His job came a few days later, to review the reams of computer printouts spat out by the Big Ear's systems. The data was a long string of numbers and letters, each one representing the intensity of the radio signal received from a specific patch of sky. Most of it was just what you'd expect, though numbers, representing the random noise of space. It was a tedious, but necessary, part of the job. But then, as Emmon's eyes scanned the columns of data, something leaped off the page. A sequence of characters. 6EQ. WOW 5. 2. A layperson. It looks like gibberish, but to Emmon, it was like a lightning bolt. In the code used by the telescope, numbers 0 through 9 represented low-intensity signals. As the intensity grew, the system switched to letters. A was stronger than 9, B was stronger than A, and so on. The letter U represented a signal intensity over 30 times stronger than the background noise of deep space. This wasn't just a random spike. It was a crescendo. The signal started low, rose dramatically, and then faded away in perfect sync with the telescope's scan across the sky. It lasted for exactly 72 seconds, the precise amount of time the big ear would be aimed at any single point in space as the Earth rotated. This symmetrical rise and fall told Emin that the source wasn't on Earth. It wasn't a satellite, and it wasn't a technical glitch. It was out there, fixed in the cosmos. Overcome with excitement and disbelief, Emin grabbed a red pen, circled the sequence 6, EQJ5, and in the margin of the printout, he wrote this single, iconic word that would forever define this event. Wow. So what made this signal so special? It wasn't just its strength. It was its asterisk, nature asterisk. The signal was what scientists call narrowband. Think of it like tuning an old-school radio. Most natural cosmic sources, like pulsars or quasars, broadcast energy across a wide range of frequencies, like static between stations. The WOW signal, however, was concentrated on an incredibly narrow, specific frequency band, around 1420 megahertz. Why is that number significant? Because 1420 megahertz is the natural emission frequency of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. Scientists had long theorized that if an intelligent civilization wanted to send a message across the vastness of space, they might choose this cosmic water cooler frequency. It's a universal constant, a frequency that any advanced civilization would likely recognize. The WOW signal landed right on the money. It was exactly what they were looking for. The news spread like wildfire through the astronomy community. Had we finally done it? Had we made first contact? The team at the Big Ear was ecstatic, but also deeply professional. The first order of business was to rule out every possible mundane explanation. Could it have been a secret military satellite? No. The signal's characteristics didn't match. A reflection from a piece of space debris. Unlikely, given the signal's perfect shape and intensity. A signal bouncing off the moon from a terrestrial source. Te moon wasen. T in the right position. Every earthly explanation they threw at it failed to stick. The signal's origin was pinpointed to a region in the constellation Sagittarius, a seemingly empty patch of space, with no bright stars or known planetary systems in that precise direction. This only deepened the mystery. If it was an intelligent signal, who was sending it? And from where? The next logical step was obvious. Point the telescope back at that exact spot, and listen again. And that's what they did, dozens of times. For weeks, months, and even years, astronomers from around the world aimed their most powerful radio telescopes at the source of the WOW, Signet, hoping to hear a repeat. They listened with bated breath, waiting for that cosmic whisper to return, and they heard nothing. Absolute silence. The spot in Sagittarius remained stubbornly quiet. It was as if a cosmic door had opened for just 72 seconds and then slammed shut forever. This is the great paradox of the WOW. Signa! It has all the hallmarks of an artificial, intelligent transmission. Yet it was a one-time event. Why would a civilization capable of sending such a powerful, targeted signal only do it once? Over the decades, many theories have emerged to try and explain it. One idea is that the signal wasn't a message at all, but perhaps the powerful engine of an alien starship passing through our galactic neighborhood. Its propulsion system might have emitted a burst of radio energy that our telescope just happened to catch as it swept by. This would explain why it was never heard again. The ship had simply moved on. Another, more recent theory proposed that the signal could have been generated by a passing comet. The idea is that comets release massive clouds of hydrogen gas as they get closer to the sun, and this gas could, under specific conditions, create a strong, narrowband signal. Researchers even identified a couple of comets that were in the general vicinity of the signal's origin back in 1977. However, this theory has been heavily criticized. Other astronomers argue that a comet's hydrogen cloud wouldn't be dense enough to produce a signal that powerful, and it wouldn't explain why other comets passing through the Big Ear's field of view never produced similar signals. The comet theory remains highly contested and, for many, unconvincing, and that leaves us with the most tantalizing possibility of all, that it was intentional. a beacon deliverat. Hello sent out into the cosmos. Perhaps it was a powerful, sweeping beacon, like a cosmic lighthouse that only illuminates a small patch of the galaxy at a time. Maybe its beam swept across Earth for just 72 seconds, and woe you and be back in our direction for centuries, or even millennia. Or maybe it was a one-shot message, fired off in the hope that someone, somewhere, was listening at that exact moment. A cosmic message in a bottle. The man at the center of it all, Jerry Emmon, remained fascinated by the signal for the rest of his life. He was a scientist, always cautious, and never definitively claimed it was aliens. But he also steadfastly maintained that it was the most significant signal ever detected in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. He systematically debunked alternative explanations and, until his passing, held onto the hope that one day we would understand its true origin. Today, the original computer printout with Emmon's wow, scrawled in the margin as a treasured artifact, a symbol of both our deepest hopes and our most profound questions. The signal itself has become a legend, a piece of modern folklore rooted in hard science. It represents a single moment when the universe seemed to lean in and say something, only to pull away, leaving us to wonder what it meant. Was it a natural phenomenon we don't yet understand? A technological artifact from a civilization long gone? Or a greeting that arrived just once? A fleeting confirmation that we are not, in fact, alone. The truth is, we don't know, and perhaps we never will. But the wow signal serves as a powerful reminder that the universe is vast, mysterious, and full of possibilities. It encourages us to keep listening, to keep searching, and to never stop looking up at the stars and wondering. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the wonders of our universe. And I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. What's your theory on the wow signal? Until next time, keep exploring. Imagine this. February 1959. 9 experienced hikers are setting up camp on a desolate, snow-swept slope in the Ural Mountains. We all know their story, or at least, we think we do. The Diet Love Pass Incidenta, puzzle box of bizarre injuries, a frantic escape from their tent, and a mystery that has haunted us for decades. We've heard the theories. Avalanche, infrasound, military tests, even a Yeti. But what if the key to this whole enigma wasn't on the mountain at all? What if it was miles above their heads, in the silent, black expanse of space? Now, let's rewind to that exact same night, far from the howling winds of the Urals, in the sterile quiet of Soviet monitoring stations. Something extraordinary was happening. Newly launched satellites, the pride of the Soviet space program, were making their orbital their sensitive instruments, designed to watch the Earth and the cosmos, suddenly went blind. For a fleeting moment, a flash of immense energy saturated their senses. A massive, inexplicable burst of radiation, right over the Ural Mountains. This wasn't a nuclear detonation. The world was on a knife's edge during the Cold War, and both superpowers were watching each other's every move. A nuke would have triggered global alarms. But the signature was all wrong. There was no mushroom cloud, no lingering fallout, no seismic shockwave. This was something else entirely. It wasn't a meteor strike, either. A meteor large enough to release that kind of energy would have lit up the sky for hundreds of miles and left a crater, but the sky remained dark, and the ground undisturbed. Atmospheric phenomena like lightning or aurora were also ruled out. The spectral pattern of this energy burst didn't match anything known to science at the time. It was a ghost in the machine, a signal from nowhere. Here's where it gets truly chilling. When Soviet analysts triangulated the origin point of this flash, their calculations pointed to one specific, remote area. You guessed it, the location matched with unnerving precision. The very slope where Igor Dyatlov and his team were spending their final night. A sudden, silent pulse of energy, powerful enough to blind satellites in orbit, descended directly upon their campsite. For years, this information was buried deep within classified Soviet files. It was a loose end, an anomaly that couldn't be explained and was therefore best forgotten. But as the Dyatlov case gained international attention and researchers began digging, these declassified documents surfaced, adding a completely new and terrifying layer to the mystery. What was this flash? Some researchers, clinging to conventional explanations, proposed a secret military test. Perhaps a new type of rocket engine, or an experimental weapon that went catastrophically wrong. The problem with that theory is that the spectral analysis of the flash doesn't match any known terrestrial technology. Not then, and not even now. The energy signature was alien. Furthermore, if it was a military test, why has no nation, not Russia, not the US, ever laid claim to it, even decades later after the fall of the Soviet Union? Secret projects get This one remains a phantom. Let's consider the other possibility. A natural event. Could it have been some unknown cosmic ray event? A rare atmospheric discharge? Or a geological phenomenon? Geologists have combed through the records. There are no known natural processes that can produce such a concentrated, instantaneous burst of that specific type of radiation and leave absolutely no other trace. It's a scientific impossibility based on our current understanding of the planet. So if it wasn't man-made, and it wasn't natural, what does that leave us with? Let's go back to the hikers on the mountain. Their tent was cut open from the inside. They fled in a state of panic, many of them improperly dressed for the lethal cold. Some were found with bizarre internal injuries, crushed ribs and fractured skulls, but with no external signs of trauma, as if they were squeezed by an immense, imbecile force. Others had strange orange tans, and their hair had turned gray, and most disturbingly, traces of high levels of radiation were found on some of their clothes. For years, investigators couldn't figure out the source of that radiation. Now, we have a potential candidate. A mysterious energy burst from the sky. Could this flash have been the trigger for the entire tragedy? Imagine you're in that tent. Suddenly, a blinding, silent light envelops everything. You don't know what it is. A weapon, an explosion, something supernatural. It's accompanied by a wave of energy that you can feel in your bones, causing disorientation, nausea, and sheer primal terror. The radiation, later found on their clothes, wasn't from a fallout source on the ground. It was from a direct bombardment from above. This would explain the sudden, irrational panic that caused them to slash their way out of the tent and flee into the deadly cold. They weren't running from an avalanche or an animal. They were running from the light. But what about those crushing internal injuries? How does a flash of light break bones? This is where the theory gets even stranger. Some physicists have speculated about exotic phenomena, like a gravitational wave or a burst of focused energy that could create immense pressure changes. Think of it like a sonic boom, but created by something far more powerful and far less understood. An invisible shock wave that passed through their bodies, leaving their skin intact but shattering their insides. The victims with these injuries were found in a ravine, leading many to assume they fell. But what if they were already dead or dying when they fell? What if the force that killed them was the same one that drove them from their shelter? This satellite data forces us to reevaluate everything we thought we knew about the Dyatlov Pass incident. The official verdict at the time was death by a compelling natural force. An answer that is so vague, it's not an answer at all. They knew they couldn't explain it, but maybe they had more information than they let on. Maybe the compelling natural force wasn't from the mountain, but from the cosmos. The fact that this event remains unclassified in all geological and meteorological records is profoundly significant. It means that, to this day, the scientific community has no category for it. The fact that no nation claims it as a secret weapon test is equally telling. It suggests that it might not have been one of our weapons. So, we are left with a cosmic coincidence of epic proportions. A 1 in a billion energy event happens to occur at the exact time and place as one of the most baffling, unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. Or, it's not a coincidence at all. It's the cause, the prime mover. What was it? A weapon from a future we can't comprehend. A side effect of an extraterrestrial craft passing by. A natural phenomenon so rare it has only happened once in recorded history. We are left staring into the darkness, just as those Soviet scientists were, looking at a single spike on a graph that represents an impossible amount of energy appearing from nowhere and vanishing without a trace. It paints a picture of the 9 hikers, not as victims of a simple earthly tragedy, but as witnesses to something far beyond our comprehension. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time, directly under the gaze of something unknown, something that left behind only questions and a silent, radioactive memory on their clothes. The Dyatlov Pass story isn't just a hiking accident. It's a cosmic horror story. And the scariest part is that it's real. The data exists. The flash was real. The hikers are gone. And somewhere out there, the explanation is still waiting to be found. What do you think happened on that mountain? Was it a military secret? A freak of nature? Or proof that we are not alone? Let me know your theories in the comments. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed diving into the world's greatest mysteries, make sure to subscribe for more. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of wonder? Or maybe a little bit of unease? We think of space as this vast, silent expanse, dotted with stars and the occasional man-made satellite. But what if there's something else up there? Something that's been watching us for a very, very long time. Today, we re-diving into one of the most enduring and unsettling mysteries of the space age. The legend of the Black Knight satellite. For decades, a story has circulated among astronauts, ham radio operators, and conspiracy theorists alike. It's the story of a dark, unidentified object orbiting our planet. This isn't your typical satellite. It follows an unusual, almost polar orbit. A path that's incredibly difficult and energy-intensive to achieve, one that we rarely use, and its trajectory is unstable, as if it's not just passively drifting, but actively moving. What's even stranger is its appearance. The object is almost completely black, reflecting virtually no light. It's like it was designed to be invisible, a ghost in the void. Some of the earliest, albeit grainy photographs show a jagged, asymmetrical shape. Unlike any satellite we've ever launched, it looks alien, ancient, and utterly out of place. The story really took off in the 1950s and 60s, at the dawn of the space race. Before humans had even sent Sputnik into orbit, there were reports of strange radio signals being picked up from space. In 1954, newspapers reported that the US Air Force had detected 2 objects orbiting Earth. This was a bombshell. At the time, no country had the technology to launch a satellite. So, where did they come from? The official explanation was, well, there wasn't a clear one. The story faded, but the seed of the mystery was planted. Then, in 1960, another object was detected in a polar orbit. The US Navy's Dark Fence, a powerful radar system designed to track spy satellites, picked it up. It was estimated to be about 15 tons, far heavier than anything the US or the Soviet Union could launch at the time. It was given the temporary designation of a catalogued object, but no one claimed it. It was a true unknown. The object would appear, disappear, then reappear, never following the predictable, decaying orbit of typical space debris. It seemed to defy the laws of orbital mechanics. This phantom of the cosmos became known as the Black Knight. One of the most famous pieces of evidence associated with this mystery comes from a 1998 NASA mission. During the STS-88 mission, the first to the International Space Station, astronauts took several high-resolution photographs of an object floating near the Space Shuttle Endeavour. The photos are crystal clear. They show a dark, complex-looking object against the backdrop of Earth. To believers, this was it. This was the smoking gun, the Black Knight, photographed up close. NASA, however, had a more mundane explanation. They said the object was simply a thermal blanket that had been accidentally dropped by an astronaut during a spacewalk. It was a piece of space junk. Case closed, right? Not so fast. While the thermal blanket explanation is plausible for that specific sighting, it doesn't account for the decades of reports that came before it. It doesn't explain the strange radio signals from the 1920s that some link to the phenomenon. It doesn't explain the 1954 radar detections, and it certainly doesn't explain the massive object tracked by the Navy in 1960. Critics argue that the Black Knight is just a collection of unrelated events, misidentified objects, and Cold War paranoia, all woven together into a modern myth. They say it's a classic example of connecting dots that aren't really there. For every strange signal, there's a potential explanation, like long-delayed echoes from radio waves bouncing off the ionosphere. For every unidentified radar blip, there's the possibility of it being a meteor, an atmospheric anomaly, or a piece of natural space rock. But for those who believe, these explanations are just too convenient. They point to the consistency of the report over nearly a century. The object is always described as dark, in a peculiar orbit, and of unknown origin. Could it be that all these different people, across different decades, using different technologies, were all mistaken in the exact same way? Or is it possible they were all observing the same thing? The sheer persistence of the legend is what makes it so compelling. Let's entertain the more exotic theories for a moment. If this isn't space junk, what could it be? One of the most popular ideas is that the Black Knight is an ancient alien probe, a sentinel. Some theorists suggest it could be thousands, maybe even millions of years old, placed in orbit long before human civilization even began. Its purpose: to observe, to silently monitor the development of life on Earth. According to this theory, it simply watches, gathers data, and waits. Waits for what? Perhaps for us to reach a certain level of technological or social maturity. Or maybe it's just a passive archive, a cosmic time capsule left by a long-dead civilization. This idea taps into our deepest questions about our place in the universe. Are we alone? Have we been visited? The thought of an ancient, silent watcher in our own backyard is both terrifying and exhilarating. It reframes human history, suggesting we've always been under surveillance. Every war, every discovery, every triumph and failure, all witnessed by an unblinking, alien eye. It's a powerful narrative. Another, slightly different theory is that it's not ancient, but a more recent probe. Perhaps it's a scout from an active alien civilization, sent to study us from a safe distance. Its stealthy design and unpredictable movements would be perfectly suited for covert observation. It stays in the shadows of low Earth orbit, close enough to see everything, but far enough to remain elusive. NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, has reportedly tracked this mystery object on and off for years, but it always vanishes before a clear picture or origin can be established. It plays a game of cat and mouse with our most advanced tracking systems, and it always wins. So, where does that leave us? On one hand, we have a series of well-documented, official reports of unidentified objects in orbit, dating back to a time before we could even put them there. We have astronauts who have seen things they can't explain, and radio signals that seem to come from nowhere. We have a legend that has captivated the public imagination for generations. On the other hand, we have logical, scientific explanations for many of these individual events. Thermal blankets, atmospheric effects, misidentified asteroids, and the simple, vast accumulation of man-made space junk. It's estimated there are hundreds of thousands of pieces of debris orbiting Earth. In such a crowded environment, mistakes are bound to happen, but the mystery of the Black Knight satellite persists, because it is more than just a collection of data points. It represents the unknown. It is a symbol of the possibility that there are things happening right above our heads that are beyond our comprehension. No one has ever successfully retrieved it. No one knows what it's made of. And no one knows for sure how long it's been there. Is it a 13,000-year-old alien messenger, as some of the more extreme theories claim? Or is it just a ghost of the Cold War, a myth born from fear and technological growing pains? Perhaps the truth is somewhere in the middle. Maybe there isn't one single Black Knight object, but several different unexplained phenomena that have been grouped together under one name. But even if 99% of the sightings can be explained away, what about the 1% that can't? That's where the real mystery lies. That's the part that keeps us looking up at the sky, wondering. The object, or the idea of it, continues its silent vigil. It watches, it waits, and it never speaks, leaving us to fill the silence with our own hopes, our fears, and our endless curiosity. What do you think is circling above us in the dark? A piece of space junk, an ancient guardian, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries from our world and beyond. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Ever looked up at the night sky and felt a sense of wonder? Maybe a little bit of loneliness. For most of human history, we thought we had a pretty good handle on our place in the cosmos. We saw stars, planets, the moon, and then a lot of quiet, empty blackness. But what if that emptiness isn't empty at all? What if it's hiding a reality so vast and strange it makes you question everything? This is the story of how one of the greatest scientific instruments ever built stared into nothing and found everything. It's a story that starts with a daring, almost crazy idea. In the mid-1990s, astronomers at NASA decided to do something unprecedented. They were going to point the Hubble Space Telescope at a patch of sky so empty, so devoid of stars, that it looked like pure, absolute darkness. Think about that for a second. Telescope time is incredibly precious and expensive. Scientists compete fiercely for every minute. And here was a team proposing to use hundreds of hours of this valuable time to look at, well, nothing. The spot they chose was in the constellation Ursa Major, a tiny sliver of the sky, about the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length. It was a region intentionally picked for its lack of known celestial objects. Many in the scientific community thought it was a colossal waste of resources. What could possibly be there? The expectation was a handful of faint, distant stars. At best, the reality was something else entirely. For 10 consecutive days, I remained fixed on this single, dark point. Its camera, the wide field and planetary camera too, painstakingly collected photons of light that had traveled for billions of years across the universe to reach its lens. It was a cosmic stakeout, a deep dive into the abyss. As the data started trickling back to Earth, the team at the Space Telescope Science Institute began to assemble the image, and as the picture came into focus, a stunned silence fell over the room. It wasn't empty. It wasn't dark. It was a celestial riot. The image, which would come to be known as the Hubble Deep Field, was not a picture of a few faint stars. It was a window into the deep past of the universe, and it was crammed, absolutely packed. With galaxies, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of them. Over 3,000 galaxies, and this one tiny pinprick of the sky. Each of those smudges of light, some so faint they were barely detectable, was a galaxy like our own Milky Way, or even larger, each one containing hundreds of billions of stars, and each of those stars could potentially have its own system of planets. The sheer scale was mind-boggling. The quiet, empty void was, in fact, an impossibly crowded metropolis of cosmic structures. The universe wasn't just big, it was teeming with creation on a level no one had ever truly visualized before. But the more astronomers stared at this incredible image, the more a sense of unease began to creep in. This wasn't just a numbers game. The nature of what they were seeing was deeply unsettling. The galaxies in the deep field weren't all neat, orderly spirals like our own. Many were strange, chaotic, and downright bizarre. Some were twisted into unnatural shapes, as if they had been violently ripped apart or molded by forces we couldn't comprehend. There were galactic collisions in progress, streams of stars being flung out into the intergalactic medium. It was a snapshot of a young, turbulent, and violent universe. The success of the Hubble Deep Field spurred even more ambitious projects. Scientists pointed Hubble at other empty patches of sky, creating the Hubble Ultra Deep Field, and later the Extreme Deep Field. With each new image, they pushed the telescope to its absolute limits, capturing light from even earlier in the universe's history. Each time, the result was the same. More galaxies, more complexity, and more questions. The deeper they looked, the stranger the patterns became. They found vast, empty regions of space. Cosmic voids, expanses millions of light years across with far fewer galaxies than expected. These voids seemed almost too perfect, too empty, as if something had intentionally swept them clean. On the other hand, galaxies weren't distributed randomly. They were arranged in a vast, web-like structure. They formed immense clusters and superclusters, connected by long filaments of gas and dark matter, stretching across billions of light. But some of these clusters formed shapes and alignments that made no mathematical sense according to our current models of cosmology. They were too large, too massive to have formed in the time since the Big Bang. And then there was the light itself. Light from some of the most distant galaxies arrived distorted in ways that gravitational lensing, bending of light by massive objects, couldn't fully explain. It was as if the very fabric of space-time was being warped and twisted by something else, something unseen. Our neat and tidy models of the universe, the ones that worked so well for our local neighborhood, started to fray at the edges when confronted with the raw data from the deep cosmos. This is where the feeling shifts from pure wonder to something more profound, something more humbling. For the first time, scientists weren't just observing the universe, they felt its scale pressing back. It wasn't a warm, welcoming cosmos waiting to be discovered. It was vast, ancient, and utterly indifferent. The forces that shaped those distant, twisted galaxies were cataclysmic on a scale that dwarfs human comprehension. The energies involved in creating those cosmic voids and superclusters are beyond anything we can replicate or even fully model. We are, it seems, living in a quiet corner of a universe that is otherwise chaotic and unimaginably powerful. The silence of our night sky is an illusion, a temporary shield from a reality that is buzzing with energies and filled with structures far beyond our grasp. The discovery that the universe is not empty but crowded is one of the most significant in human history. But the realization that we do understand the rules governing that crowd is perhaps the most unsettling of all. We look out at these images and see the history of everything, a 13-billion-year-old story told in pinpricks of light, but we also see a reflection of our own limitations. We are trying to understand an ocean of existence from the perspective of a single drop of water. The Hubble Deep Field didn't just give us answers. It gave us a whole new vocabulary of questions. What is dark matter? The invisible scaffolding that holds these galaxies together. What is dark energy? The mysterious force that is accelerating the expansion of the universe, pushing everything further apart. What carved out those impossibly large voids? These are no longer just academic questions. They touch upon the very nature of existence. They force us to confront the possibility that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine.